Welcome into this segment of Behind the Pen presented by MostValuablePodcast.com. If you want to listen to the full podcast, go to blogtalkradio.com/MostValuablePodcast. Also, we're on iTunes, so check us out there as well. Thank you all for listening as always, and enjoy the show.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome in, my friends, to another episode of Behind the Pen. My name is Mike Rankin, and I will be your host today. And boy, do we have a treat for you. Lots of stuff on tap for today's show. Alongside me, I have Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
This is going to be some sort of conversation, ladies and gentlemen, because we have pressing needs, especially for a Chicago sports fan. We got you covered today. We got Bulls. Obviously, the debacle that is the Chicago Bulls is happening in front of our eyes.
Our crippling depression right in front of you.
We can characterize that.
Train
Absolutely.
You just can't look away.
Well, it's fun. I mean, did we expect this? Absolutely. Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about that. Dwyane Wade comments, Butler comments, and the current state. We're going to move on to Super Bowl conversation. Matt Ryan versus Tom Brady. Falcons, Patriots. Looks to be a good matchup. We'll see how that goes. And then we're going to end it with some Chicago Bears talk, really focused around what they can do in the third overall pick. Is it going to be Deshaun Watson? We'll have that for you. If you're listening on blogtalkradio.com/mostvaluablepodcast, you're the best. That's where you can find all of our full-length podcasts. Make sure you become a Patreon. We got Appel mics, guys. Like, this is awesome. We don't have to have videos with microphones in front of our faces. This it's because of you. Everything is because of you. Become a Patreon. Donate whatever you can. We really do appreciate your time. Obviously, we value your listening ears. What else? Social media. Follow us at Most Valuable Pod. Subscribe to our channel. Give us a like down below if you're on YouTube for this Bulls segment. Stay right here because we're about to talk about some stuff and things with the Chicago Bulls. Dave and Ricky, boy, where do I even begin? Where do I begin with this conversation? Because going into this season, you know, the Bulls had a solid plan. Like, they were going to rebuild, right? I think we were all ready for this transition period until they signed Dwyane Wade and Rajon Rondo. Now, this is pretty much gone.
I think you were against the moves more than some.
Oh, I was. I
didn't mind it.
The phrase rebuild doesn't, inspire confidence when you sign two people over 30.
Right. Younger, more athletic. They draft Denzel Valentine, not really athletic, kind of hurt. And
not really young either.
Right. He's 22 in terms of college players. Dwyane Wade, Rajon Rondo. I mean, so far it's been a train wreck. Jimmy Butler, so much going on there as well. So let's dive right into it. So, okay, it started a few games ago, right? This was after the Orlando win when Dwyane Wade kind of mentioned, he said that, well, I don't know if I want to pick up my player option. I'm paraphrasing here, but he's 35 years old. He says, he could do other things with his legs. He could save his knees, right? He doesn't want to play on a team that's underwhelming, under 500. Signing Rondo and Wade, and you have Butler as well, they marketed this team as some sort of powerhouse, not really a powerhouse.
Contender.
A team that could, well, much better than this, but could contend in the East, maybe stay relevant for a while, keep people interested. But this has just been bad. Just so much mediocrity on the floor right now. And Wade said, hey, I don't know if I'm going to pick up my player option next year. We'll see what happens. Then you move on to the disaster that was the Atlanta Hawks-Chicago Bulls matchup. And they were at home following a home and away back-to-back game, right? They blew a 10-point lead with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. They gave up 41 points. And after the game, Dwyane Wade and Jimmy Butler sounded off on their teammates. Guys, do I read the quotes? Should I read the quotes to begin this?
I think you got to.
Because when,
I think you have to.
Well, Dwyane Wade pretty much called out the team, right? And then Jimmy Butler followed it up by saying, I understand that if you got an open shot, take it. But at a point in the game like that, no offense, but you got to get the ball to the best players. That's just how the game goes. Let it come down on my shoulders or D. Wade's shoulders. Let us be the reason why. I understand if you're open, yeah, shoot it. But at a time and place when a guy's making shots like he and I was, I felt like everything was going in and I put up there. It happens, man. You just got to learn from it. I'm not mad at the shot selection. I just think there's a time and place for that. Now, to me, it's saying, okay, don't do your job. This is me and Wade.
I mean, they're role players for a reason, and they're superstars for a reason. And players like Dwyane Wade and Jimmy Butler are there. They're the ones who are going to get you the wins. Let's be honest. You're probably not getting a ton of wins out of Nico and Rondo and Paul Zipser and Taj. Like, those are great contributors for small factor. But the guys who are really going out there and winning you games night in, night out, that's who you need to count on. And Jimmy's right. In the crunch time, you go to the guys who have that it factor, the guys who can carry the team on their back. And on a night like Atlanta, where they had been doing so well, you don't go away from the hot hand. And that's what really kind of irks me, is the fact that I feel like if this team had a better sense of leadership from the coach, that this conversation wouldn't have even happened in the first place, because, you know, if you have a great coach out there, he can kind of guide the team in how they're going to play out different situations. And this kind of turned into players are playing on whatever they feel like doing. And it's not like they're like out there going rogue like Boogie out, but it's just the fact that
that's kind of what's happening.
They don't have that teamwork
with
aspect.
Butler and Wade. That's what's happening. They're taking over.
Well, and part of me, when I first heard these comments and saw the comments, my first part was, I don't mind it. I don't mind calling out and maybe it's because A, I'm not an NBA player, and B, I'm not playing I'm not playing basketball currently on a team. My part was, hey, you know what? It's healthy to say, hey, you know what? Step it up, because if there's anyone, you look at, to me, the stat sheet, and what was it, 74 points that Butler and Wade combined for. If I was Butler and Wade, I'd feel like, well, come on, guys. To me, it comes down to trust. It would be like, come on, guys. Really? I have to put this crappy team on my back and will us to the play? Well, me and Wade have to will this team to the playoffs? Come on, pick up the slack.
Yeah, okay.
However, I can see the other side where it's like, you probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And
media is kind of the wrong way to go with that message. That's a locker room conversation, and
they did have it,
day and age.
Wade did talk to them behind closed doors before.
I just think that bringing it out to the public and the media, I think that is kind of crossing the line, especially in today's day and age where everything is so overanalyzed.
Well, it's okay to call out
out
players. It's just the way, like the situations. Now, here's my opinion, real quick, because when Wade and Butler, right, they took over this Bulls team straight up. When he brought in Dwyane Wade, and you can talk about his leadership qualities, what have you.
Absolutely.
Jimmy Butler is not a leader, and I'll tell you that right now. He's all for himself. He's Jimmy. Jimmy's for Jimmy. He wants the money, wants to be acknowledged as a superstar among the top 10 players in the game. He may be there. It's arguable. For sure, his game speaks volumes to that. But when you look at guys to be a leader in the locker room, Jimmy's not that. And Wade acts like as if these players that he's with right now, the secondary complimentary players, aside from Taj, because Taj has been great, and maybe even Robin Lopez, it's like they're his children. He's 35 years old. He's acting like their father, but he's like the most productive player on the Bulls. Yeah. But it's not their fault that they're bad, right? Jerry Grant, it's not his fault that he sucks. I mean, right now, obviously he's young, he's inexperienced, but he's going to take time to grow.
There's a difference between having off a night versus that's your talent cap.
Mirotić is bad. So what are you doing? I just think this is a really bad look, and it's.
Well, it comes down to trust. Jimmy doesn't trust and that's the big thing with he mentioned in his comment when he's he pointed out Zipser and Nico. You look at the box score, and with 25 seconds left, Nico's taken the three-pointer. I mean, the first thing I think of is maybe it's my basketball reference of the old Bulls that actually won championships. And you might say, but Ricky, Steve Kerr was never a superstar, and he hit big shots for us when the game was on the line. Yeah, but Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen,
Ricky,
they had trust in
you were
Steve Kerr at the time. I know.
One of the greatest franchises in all of history.
I'm talking about Steve Kerr, not the
23
franchise.
and 24
the same way with Danny Green, Ray Allen, all these guys who are clutch, who came up clutch in the crunch time.
Nico's not that though.
Yeah,
it's
the Bulls don't have anybody
why
like that.
are you taking? Yeah, and it's not. And everything right now, I know it's going to be on Wade and Jimmy because they said the comments, but. Why don't we point the magnifying glass and the spotlight on the real problem? The front office.
Well, that's been the problem.
It's Gar Forman.
That is the problem.
It's one of these things where it's if I was Jimmy and I was speaking my mind, I would basically say, well, what the fuck do you want me to do?
All right, now let's go back.
What do you want me to do?
Because you brought it up. Dwyane Wade coming into Chicago, I don't know what he was expecting, but this is exactly, obviously, what was going to happen with the current construct of this roster.
Let's be honest, he just wanted to come home.
Well, he had nothing else to do.
It was a middle finger back to Pat Riley.
He only
had a little bit, but also
the contract
coming home was a nice story for him.
Of course, but he's 34 when he did that. He's 6 years late in that whole coming home party. But listen, Dwyane Wade signed a contract to come to Chicago. It's like a difference of $4 million to what Pat Riley offered, and that was, you're right, it's just a middle finger to the Heat and Pat Riley. But he's saying all these things as if this is surprising to him. The construct of this roster warrants where the Bulls are today, and that's mediocre. just bad. I wouldn't be surprised if I had them as a 4 to 6 seed in the article I wrote in the offseason, because, I mean, looking at what they did to bring in this talent, like, they should be, on paper, a playoff team around, like, obviously, the bottom half of
I had him as an 8 seed.
the league.
If players had lived up to their potential,
Completely
I
fair.
mean, if Nico had grown as a player, if Bobby Portis had grown as a player, but there's so many times where
Right.
if they had grown, instead we see regression across the board with everyone on that roster except for Jimmy Butler.
And that goes back to what Wade was saying and how he wants to step away from, hey, I'm not going to live with this Bulls team, no way, the way that it's run. And going back to your point, Ricky, it's been the front office for a long time now. Gar Forman has to go. That guy has to go. John Paxson, you know, he's been tied with the Chicago Bulls for a long time. And you know what? How much he influences the roster decisions is up in the air, but Gar Forman is definitely the problem. And you know what else, too? Fred Hoiberg, handpicked Gar Forman guy. How much blame do you put on Fred Hoiberg? Now, I'm going to be as critical as I can of this man, because when I look at Fred Hoiberg, I feel like he was undermined immediately. Last year was a disaster, and it was worse last year than it is now, but now it's getting to be kind of close to that. But when I look at Fred Hoiberg last year, Jimmy, two days into the season, he says, "Oh, we got to practice harder. This isn't right." Totally just threw him under the bus immediately. And then obviously stuff going on with Noah and, you know, the way he handles his roster, what have you. It's up to the coach, no matter how bad the talent is on your squad, to utilize that and make the most of it, right? Now, when you have Dwyane Wade and Jimmy Butler undermining you and saying, well, like, for example, in the game against the Hawks, Jimmy Butler, it was like 54 seconds left, and Coach Hoiberg wanted to call a timeout. Jimmy says, no, we're not doing that. It's just instances
that was
like
caught on
that.
camera.
It's just ridiculous stuff like that says, okay, well, what can Fred Hoiberg do when you have a superstar in Wade calling the shots, being the coach, and Jimmy Butler all for himself saying, give me the ball, I'm the man.
Yeah, and the fact that they come out and speak publicly about it, I think is just the most hurtful thing as a Chicago Bulls fan. And that's why I kind of liked when Rondo called them out on it.
Yes.
Rondo came out just a couple hours ago as we record this. And I'll give you just part of the quote because it is a very long one. He's speaking about his days back in Boston. He says, "My vets would never go to the media. They would come to the team. My vets didn't pick and choose when they wanted to bring it. They brought it every single time they stepped on the gym, whether it was practice or a game. They didn't take days off." And it goes on and on. Didn't care about numbers, only played for the team, and it just keeps going. And it's this whole thing about how, as a veteran, you have a role for that locker room. You have a role on your team.
Right.
And he feels that Dwyane Wade and Jimmy Butler are not living up to that role. He feels betrayed by them. And I think for a player who has eaten so much of the hatred of Bulls fans this year in the media
Right.
and pointed at it as such a failure this year. What did you expect? You're getting Rondo. Come on, he
Right.
hasn't been relevant in years, all this garbage. And he's out there acting like the professional.
Absolutely.
He took the benching like a professional. He didn't say a single bad thing. He's staying late for practice. He is helping out the young guys when he can. And he came off the bench and he still tries. It's not one of those things where it's like he's totally demotivated. He still gives his all out there. And it's just kind of weird to see someone like him trying to put Dwyane Wade and Jimmy Butler
I
back
absolutely
in place.
love what you were saying about Rajon Rondo, because if you've been listening to Behind the Pen, I've been super critical on Rondo and the Rondo side. I hated it from the start, but he has been the ultimate professional as a leader. Ricky, what you think?
Well, the thing that I think of is Jimmy Butler. And when I hear Rondo's thoughts, I think to myself, okay, Jimmy Butler right now, 27 years old. And to me, I think that these next, I'm going to say 3 years, because I mean, he's got technically 2 for-sure years, and then maybe that last one in 19 and 20 that's a player option year. These are going to be the most important 3 years of Jimmy Butler's life, because I pulled it up, and I'm not pulling up to compare numbers or the player. LeBron James is the better player in this situation. But when you look at it, up until when LeBron James was 27, that was the season that Miami won their first title. That was his second year in Miami. The first one was that when he was 26, he lost to Dallas.
Yeah, what are you getting at?
It's one of those things where look at the type of player LeBron was. Yeah, he was the best player, but when did LeBron James learn to be the better teammate, the better veteran than he was the superstar in Cleveland. I'm going to hit the final shot. I'm going to go off on this day. Kind of, to me, numbers goes to Miami, plays with D. Wade. Now, D. Wade isn't, to me, the same D. Wade that he was on that Miami team. Because
But
I
his
don't
brain's
think,
the same. He's still doing the same things to coach players.
Well, it's one of those things where I don't think that D. Wade would have went to the media.
Well, because they had success.
That's another thing that plays into it. That's why I think that just like LeBron, how he matured in Miami, that's why these next 3 years with Jimmy are going to be crucial because he's got to learn to be a vet. He's got to learn to be a vet. If he wants to lead a team, he's got to know.
We've already said that he's not. He's all about Jimmy.
So the question is, Jimmy Butler, is he going to get that experience in Chicago? Or do you think that that's something you have to go kind of, because LeBron went into the deep end, like he went to a completely new team, new guys around him, and he grew a lot from that experience, like you said. Jimmy Butler, got Dwyane Wade to come in here, and you got Rondo to come in here, and Wade obviously is the leader of this team, both on the court and off it would seem, and Jimmy really looks up to him, and a lot of the experience or veteran savvy that we expect to come off Wade to Jimmy, like that whole thing is great, but the question is, does Dwyane Wade
need a better coach?
Wow.
Well, and here's the thing: when I say that, I wanna press it on it with this. I feel bad for Fred Hoiberg.
Oh, me too.
Because
not even a little.
He is not. Well, it's because he's not a shitty coach. He knows what he's talking about.
Smart basketball mind.
But A, he was put into a shitty situation, and B, he's not the right man for this job. I look at, and I'm going to compare it to another thing from that Miami Heat team. Eric Spoelstra. That first year, Eric Spoelstra did not know how to work with the mind.
Undermined by
like
LeBron all the time.
And Wade. But once
Egos
Eric
taking over.
Spoelstra stepped up and said, I am the coach. It wasn't like a harsh, like, I'm the coach, listen to me. It was just took a little bit of a firmer
Well, look what he's doing now. He's one of the better coaches in the NBA.
He's the second longest tenure in the NBA.
Been successful ever since. And with the Bulls, I don't know if that's Hoiberg stepping up. I don't know if that is bringing in another coach that is going to be that guy.
I want to see Hoiberg just take over. I just want to say, listen, I'm done with you guys calling the shots. This is my team. I'm going to make the most out of what we got, whether you like it or not.
The problem I see with that is that Hoiberg was known for having a great system in place for offense. Like he was the offensive guy when he was brought in to kind of counteract all the years of frustration of dealing with Tibbs, who was a defensive god. But we were struggling to put up 100 a night, and Hoiberg's offense, no one decided to check it out and be like, oh, so we need some specific skill set players to actually work this.
And what does that go back to?
And we didn't quite build that out, and we didn't have the pieces. We didn't draft the pieces to fit that quite well enough. So I mean, I'm not sure what the expectations could honestly be for Hoiberg.
And that's why it's very hard for me to be critical on Hoiberg and saying this is a lot of the blame goes to him, because I don't think that's necessarily true. Obviously, he holds most of, like some of it, not most of, maybe not most of it, because I think this is on as much as on the players like Wade and Butler as it is on the head coach. But it is his responsibility to create this atmosphere inside the locker room.
I think you have to adapt.
And that's
he hasn't been able to take control.
That's exactly it, because the main difference in my little, when I bring up Spoelstra, is Spoelstra came to the head coaching job as an assistant, already knew a little bit of the NBA, not the game, but like the atmosphere.
He's been around the ego.
Hoiberg spent 5 years in college at Iowa State. College players are farly different than NBA players. College minds are a little bit more influential at that age.
A whole lot more.
Even though it's like a year by the time you get to the NBA.
The difference is the millions and millions of dollars in their bank account.
That goes to the head,
and
too.
The media coverage.
But it's one of those things where I feel like it's one of those things where he has needed time to kind of adapt and develop into that NBA coach. But all this drama and this situation with the Bulls is just setting it back, maybe like 5 years.
So the problem is...
That's an over-exaggeration, but you know what I'm talking about.
We're talking Hoiberg. He never had a chance. In my eyes, he really didn't. And you brought it up, Dave, and it's roster construction. For his skill set and his coaching style, you don't have that. Mirotic, bad. Bobby Portis, bad. Isaiah Cannon, he's shooting like 29% from three. He was at one point starting.
Literally the worst decision maker I think I've ever seen in my life.
You have Paul Zipser, the second-round draft pick from last year, starting, being their sixth man, and playing in the final minute of that Hawks game.
Can I throw this question out to you guys?
How is that Hoiberg?
And I want to throw this question because this could be something that you could use to help Hoiberg. Do you look at this situation, and we were talking about Wade possibly opting out?
Right.
Do you look at it and go, hey, you know what, D? If you're going to opt out, fuck it. Let's try to get something so that Hoiberg, let's try to trade for players that can help Hoiberg in his system? Or do you just let this all work out and let D walk at the end?
Okay, Cleveland, Iman Shumpert, JR, whatever. Yeah, like, no. Like,
it's wishful thinking.
There's really nothing you can do,
that.
especially restricted by the cap space in the NBA today and his contract.
And this is one team I want to throw out, and I've thrown it out before on the fast break, but I want to throw it out to you, Mike, because I listened to ESPN Chicago, and Sylvie on the Waddle and Sylvie show threw this out. He's a big proponent of maybe the Milwaukee Bucks. He's like, D-Wade played his college ball there. Milwaukee's
and he
a
was
team,
also interested, well, among the teams interested in signing him.
Milwaukee's also a team that right now, a game out of that 8th seed, they want to make the playoffs. They have a rising star.
They lost to the 76ers. That's why they're a game out.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where maybe could that be a team that the Bulls try to work with to get? But what would you get for D?
Who are you looking at? Like Miles Plumlee or something?
Yeah, I mean they're not giving up Giannis and they're not giving up Jabari. So you're
not
hoping,
even
get draft picks.
Not even
could
Thon
you get
Maker.
you're
picks
getting
for
a
D-Wade?
So you're
You're not
20?
getting much. You're not. If you want to trade for picks, you got to get a
15 to 20.
lottery, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know.
The problem is it's a 35-year-old D-Wade, so maybe I'm overvaluing. Be like, maybe that is no, because Bellinelli went for like a 19
Well, you look
last year.
at Wade's production
That
this
hurts.
season. It's scary that a 35-year-old is averaging like 19 points per game.
His
only
efficiency is down. He's missed 6 games.
Well,
I understand.
Yeah, only 5 or 6.
But his assists are down. His assist looks are down, which I expect his assists to be down when we're shooting so poorly. But even like the chances for an assist are down. The scoring percentage is down. It's just, look, I understand he's still a phenomenal playmaker.
Absolutely.
But on a 1 year guaranteed or on a half-year guaranteed deal at a 35-year-old, I mean, maybe the best we can get is a late lottery to mid-round, first-round pick.
And you
for
have to trade with a team that is in the mix of being a championship
because
contender.
he wants that.
That's it. That's what Dwyane Wade wants, and that's why he said, "Okay, I'm probably but maybe not coming back."
The only crazy convoluted system is like a 3-way trade deal in the NBA, and those are awful usually. So and really rare.
The one reason why I wouldn't be against it is
Dellavedova. What do you think?
At this point, fucking
bad.
But it's one of those things where I don't care where the pick is. I rather get something for nothing.
Well, that's okay then.
Because then I'm actually
trade Butler.
That's another topic.
Trade Butler. That's how you get better quicker.
That is another one where I wouldn't be if the Bulls came out tomorrow and said, "Hey,
I'm all
we
for
traded
it.
Butler."
That's just
I
me.
wouldn't be mad, but I would be like, "Well, I guess we're back to the Elton Brand days."
Oh, dark days. Dark days.
Okay. What are you going to do to build around Butler now? What can you do? Invest in free agency?
Butler's 27 now.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you have a guy who just entered his prime pretty much, and
they have nothing.
Your window is
they have
3
nothing.
years, right, due to his contract. So, yeah, pretty much we've already watched us fail at free agency for multiple years, and
they've missed
the best we could
picks.
do. Our drafts are awful. So yeah, I mean, the guys who should be helping him out are not even in the league anymore, or they're in the D League, or they're riding a bench somewhere. It's just it's a really poorly run organization, and I think you're right. I think the best way to do this is to clean house. You start with Gar Forman, and
that's got to happen.
That is the guarantee. I think you do lose Fred Hoiberg because I don't think that. At this point, I feel like he's so mentally shaken from. I know this is gonna sound like a little wimpy on him, but
and he'd find a job in college if he wanted to.
And I think that's his better fit. Like, look, even like Pete Carroll, his first time in the NFL, coming up from college, it didn't work. He didn't have the mindset for it, and it really took a lot the second time through.
Some would even say Brad Stevens' first tenure in the NBA isn't working like we expected it to.
Well, he looks good. I think he's a great mind.
It's one of those things where that
it's back
team
and
we
forth.
expected it to.
They lucked out
better.
on Isaiah.
Yeah,
they really did. I mean, that was the biggest thing. But my point is
that team to take next step.
The point is that Fred, I don't feel like he can kind of grasp the reins anymore. I think that he's missed his chance, and that the players on the team don't respect him at the level they should respect a coach. I think what you do is you dig deep, and after letting go of Foreman, you let go of him, and you're probably going to have to move some pieces in the meantime. But I think they need to look for, I hate saying this because everybody says it, but you go to that San Antonio coaching tree. Brett Brown is doing wonderful things right now for the 76ers, and I think that there are other guys on that assistant coach lineup for the San Antonio Spurs.
Look at what
who can fill in.
Buttenhauser is doing in Atlanta.
I mean, it's really
because that's
easy
a professional organization.
Well, it's really easy to take a great head coach And, as he shares his teachings along to his assistants, like, it's very easy to draw a direct line from, hey, this is a great coach. I wonder if his assistant coach would be pretty good too, because if he listened to him a lot, I mean, it adds up.
Going back to your point, if you're firing Foreman, then see you later, Hoiberg. They're a package deal. They're most likely going to be gone. But that has to be done. This Foreman move, it's been long overdue. But I want to go back to the Thibodeau days. And we saw the debacle of that relationship in the front office near the end of his tenure here in Chicago. Thibodeau, obviously, we're not going to argue this. He was one of the most brilliant basketball minds. He's a little crazy, right? He's a little crazy.
That man had a hoarse voice 30 seconds into the game.
Ice! Yeah, no, but he's like the Bill Belichick of basketball in terms of listen.
Too loud on the voice, by the way.
What?
It's a little bit too high. It's sort of like, voice.
No, I'm saying, but in that aspect, the mind of Tom Thibodeau is similar to that of Belichick by the way he prepares, his work ethic, things of that nature. I'm not comparing the two.
Just say the C word. Say it already. Culture.
Okay, that's a part of it. But anyway, back to my main point. Thibodeau obviously is a brilliant basketball mind, and he had so many conflicts with his front office, so many conflicts that it forced him out. He disagreed with pretty much everything that was going on. That Pax and Gar were saying, "Well, you gotta, save the legs of this roster. You gotta play this a certain way." He goes, "No, I'm doing what I want to do," and it goes back to the front office, the way they run this organization.
Is the route to go kind of like, I mean, football's different, but a la Bill Belichick, a la Doc Rivers, where it's you bring in a guy to be judge, jury, and executioner. He runs the front office. He runs the players. He runs the
You better find the right guy to do that.
And that's the one thing with that San Antonio coaching tree. You want to set up a culture, like the coaches that come out of that tree, they set up a culture because that's what. So that's
I'm with
what,
you.
like Pop has done. I mean, even look at Steve Kerr, what the culture that he's set up with the Warriors, and I think Luke Walton is eventually going to do the same thing in LA.
So we're kind of rambling a little bit on the Chicago Bulls conversation, but that's fine. It's totally fine. We went from the D-Wade comments all the way through the Fred Hoiberg and the front office problems. But we're going to end this conversation going back to the original point. Dwyane Wade, Jimmy Butler. This locker room's divided. Obviously, since the start, Butler and Wade were buddy-buddy. Obviously, Wade's trying to turn Butler into the superstar. He's trying to turn him into a guy who's going to carry himself as an ultimate professional leader and all that stuff. Yep. My opinion, Jimmy Butler's not a leader. He's all for himself. Am I wrong in thinking that?
I'm not going to disagree with you that I think that right now Jimmy needs to mature. And it's much like what I said. The same kind of changes that happened with LeBron need to happen with Jimmy. Because I look at Jimmy, I see the production, I see the makings, and I want to go, yeah, he's our number one.
He's a superstar for sure.
He's a superstar. He's number one.
I was really, really put off by the comments after the game last night. However, that wasn't what you do. And you have guys like Jerry Grant going on Twitter and defending himself. Same with Isaiah Cannon. Then the Rondo thing, which I'm seeing now. The front office didn't like what Rondo said.
What a surprise!
Right?
Considering he said, if anything, it's the leadership.
And now they're thinking that. Well, I think that attributes to the front office as well. But and they're saying, well, they might buy out Rondo's contract now, so we'll keep an eye on that. That could happen. Dave, what'd you think?
No, I think that Jimmy Butler is a player who has by far exceeded every expectation anyone had for him already.
Great work ethic.
And every time you think he's hit his cap, he keeps getting better. He keeps improving. I think at this point he's just lashing out of pure frustration. I think he legit can be a leader of a team. I don't know if it's this team this year. And I completely understand why he's frustrated because, like you said, the expectations were at such a level going into the season where they should be competing. And the fact that they're losing to these bad teams, and I'm saying bad teams, and the way they lose is even worse. And watching guys who are having historically bad years take shots over you while you're hot. Take opportunities away from you, and you're like, look, if you would just give me the ball every time I'm down on every time we're down there on the floor, we're gonna win this game. And at some point, you just have to man up and say it. Be like, look, I'm a better player than you. Give me the ball. And I understand that that's not an easy thing to do because
I think he's been saying that though. That's the message he's been sending to his locker room.
The problem is that A, they're not listening, or B, the coach has a different message. So if you don't match up...
And it's a problem. The locker room is completely divided.
Yeah. It needs to be a concise vision for how your team is going to win games. They don't have that this year, and I think that Jimmy Butler is probably best off, getting a fresh start. And I think Dwyane Wade is going to find his way out of town very soon.
And the one thing that has been sitting in my mind, and I just want to throw it at the end, kind of as a little fire starter for the comment section, Boston does have 2 picks.
Anyone.
2 picks.
Anyone.
We can get a pick. I'm not saying go ahead and trade Jimmy. Like, I'm not starting that protest and that campaign, but it's one of those things where I sit there and I go, Boston has 2 picks.
Yeah, but I mean, the Nets are awful. So that number 1 overall, Jimmy, I don't know.
I'd take either of them.
Awesome Bulls conversation, boys. It's always fun talking Bulls, especially when they're laughable, which they are the laughingstock of the league right now.
Entertaining team, though. Are you not entertained? We called this shit.
It's funny because we still technically are the 8th seed. So I mean, we're there.
It's going to change, though.
We're talking about selling out for 3 best players.
We're going to see what happens moving forward with this Bulls team because this drama is not over, and we're going to have more for you on Behind the Pen. Thank you guys for sticking around for this segment of Behind the Pen. If you want more Most Valuable Podcast content, click on the video up above because I don't know why you wouldn't want to keep listening to our voices every day. But again, guys, thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate you.